Welcome to the Finding the Magic podcast, where books come alive. I'm Tricia Copeland, a fiction author and host of this show. If you love books, finding great reads, and hearing about the story behind the story directly from the authors, this is the place for you. Whether you like fantasy, science fiction, dystopian, or romance titles, I think you'll find something to love in my playlist. Listen in to discover something magical about a book or two today.
This meeting is...
Hi, Michael and David.
Hello.
Hello.
Today we have Mikel Melwasul and David Tullius. They are the authors of Paragon Exodium. They're fantasy authors. And thank you both very much for being here. I'm super excited. I don't usually get two authors, so I feel like I'm getting two for the price of one today.
Yeah, we come as a bundle, and the book's so long it's like three for the price of one.
Oh wow, how long is it?
231,000 words.
Oh my goodness. I thought like I just published a book that's 130 and that's my longest one so far. And I thought I was like, so, obviously I am not worthy.
It was a marathon. I'll tell you what.
I can imagine. How long did it take to write?
About 6 years.
Okay, well, I want to dive in and learn all about the book, and then I want to learn about how it worked to co-write. So who wants to start?
Who wants to start? That's a great question. I usually start, so I'll let Dave go.
Oh no. I better read the back of the book so I can tell you what's in it. Oh, you were serious. Okay, well. So our book Paragon Exordium is set in it's an apocalypse setting where in the distant past magic was abundant in the world. Magical creatures, other societies, non-human intelligence, etc. And at some point in the past, magic essentially left the world and humanity continued on as plodding through history without magic as we knew it. And then all at once, for reasons that the book attempts to explain, magic suddenly reappears in the world and causes the collapse of human society. And everyone has to pick up the pieces of not just the end of the world, but it's the end of the world, and suddenly there are magical creatures that don't like us very much, and we have to deal with it.
Interesting. Okay, so humanity's going along. Is there current technology in this book, or is it
Modern day?
Modern day. Okay. So is your focus, like the characters, the main characters in the book, are they humans that are trying to deal with the situation?
Yeah, it is a human POV primarily.
Okay.
It's very character driven, to an extreme. I would say it's very character driven. There isn't at least in book one, there isn't an overarching villain. There's multiple villains, and the villains range from human beings to monsters of various sizes. But there isn't one like overarching villain. There's sort of hints at one that we get into as the series goes on, but it's much more personal at the start. And so we have three main POVs in book one, all three of which are human. There is a sort of Gandalf or what's his name? The
Kenobi sort of situation, Yoda.
Yeah, Dumbledore, old wizard character. We have an old wizard character who's an old dwarf lady who shows up very early in the story. But she doesn't get a POV chapter. We have some sort of bonus POV chapters. There's a chapter from the perspective of a dryad, which is a lot of fun. There's a chapter from the perspective of a basilisk. So we like to kind of throw in what we call bonus POVs. But the main POVs, the main characters, are humans trying to survive in this world that is now overrun with magic and magical creatures and monsters. And it's set in like rural Georgia. So in a very real place in a very real time.
Okay, so I grew up in rural Georgia.
Oh.
Kind of like north south. Those places are very different. So
the characters travel from a made-up town called Paragon through Macon and into Atlanta.
Oh, okay, so from the south to the north. Interesting.
Yeah,
fun. And okay, so for us maybe I'm a fantasy person, but I don't know all the characters. What is a dryad?
A dryad it's like a tree spirit. Okay. Essentially, it's a spirit that of the forest that takes like bark and like steps out of a tree essentially.
Okay, so the magic, what does it exactly do to the humans when it just appears, or the beings appear bringing the magic?
Dave?
Oh, well, magic, so due to sorcery, has been out this whole time. And so there's been very few sort of anchor points to keep it going. And when all of that sort of breaks open, floods back into the world in mass instead of in its own sort of separate location. So all at once, all the magic is sort of capable of reaching everyone now, and all those who are attuned to it and who were able to focus on magic that were out of time essentially for very long times come back, and they are in an apocalypse scenario too. Humans who haven't had really any access to magic for our whole history suddenly have to figure out, who can wield magic and how does it interact with the world. And it's interesting for both sides to have to figure out the other's new normal.
Right. That's like if suddenly superheroes were real in our culture, in our society, like,
Yeah.
what are those different reactions?
Yeah, it's like it's a split second thing, and it has such an effect on the world. Like it shatters the sky, which you can kind of see in the cover. The sky is literally shattered by the effect of magic returning, and there's even like the city of Atlanta is overlapped with an elvish city. So like buildings are like spliced together, and magic is just here everywhere all of a sudden. And so it's like technology takes a hit, technology goes down. It's like an EMP hit the whole planet because magic infests our reality. It's like its own energy, its own force of nature, and it affects everything we're doing. So this small town in rural Georgia is cut off from the rest of the world because they're already a little separated. But when technology goes out, they're completely cut off, and they don't even know what's going on for the most part until a giant snake rolls into town and starts eating people in like the first chapter. So
so I'm thinking like Walking Dead versus what was that? It was a book made into a movie, Lock the World Away or something like that. Anyway,
Rain of
like
Fire is one I get a lot.
the family goes on vacation and rents a house out, and then like weird things start happening, like the flamingos come. Did you see that one? I don't know if you read the book. Leave the World Behind. Yeah,
I haven't heard of that. I'll have to look it up.
Eerie. Oh, that book is like super haunting, and the movie didn't do it justice. But anyway, no. Yeah. So I'm thinking Walking Dead versus like that smash up type feel. Am I somewhat right about that?
I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of our reviews compare it to Walking Dead in a lot of elements because it's an apocalyptic setting in Georgia. It's very character driven. So there's definitely some inspiration, definitely some overlap there. We get on the back, we compare it to like the Lord of the Rings meets the Walking Dead with sort of a band of brothers kind of feel to it. Is just kind of the overall summary we make.
Right. And so these are adult characters, correct?
We've got POV characters in the first book is a teenager, a college student, and an adult point of view.
Okay. So, and can any age read the book? Is it suitable for YA people, or is it more adult?
I'd say so. I would say PG-13 because of violence. If I was gonna put a rating on it, but the violence is. I mean, there's some graphic things. I'm not gonna say there isn't, but I'd be careful. I mean, I'd make sure I wouldn't give it to a 10, maybe a 10-year-old without looking at it first or whatever. But yeah, otherwise, as far as any sort of, bad language, spice, very minimal, so acceptable for most people. And Mick likes to tell people, I'm gonna steal your thunder on this one, is that we love it when parents read it and they're like, I liked it, so now I'm gonna share it with my kid. But they determine like, oh, this was great. The parent knows that it's better. But yeah, for younger, YA, I'd say unless you're really, really early YA, I think it'd probably be fine. It's Americans.
Yeah, I was about to say, a 13-year-old is not going to let you read to them, but they might read it themselves.
Yes.
They might watch a movie with you or play a video game, but I think that's as much as you get.
That makes sense.
Fun. So the main characters, do they leave their town then in search of trying to figure out what's going wrong?
Some of them do. There are circumstances around why they leave. Their focus, so it picks up like a month after what we call the shattering, which is where the sky broke and magical creatures invest. And so because there was such a cataclysmic event, they spend some time just trying to get the town itself under control. Because it's like the end of the world. No one knows what's going on. Everyone thinks it's over. So there's a military group present in the town that does training there, a private military group. And so one of those characters, he makes some decisions during this that result in the people in charge of the town saying, "Hey, you need to get some space from the rest of us. Like, we can't do anything to stop you, but we'd love it if you like just go look for some survivors, see what's happening out there, give us a little space." And there's a lot of heated opinions on that from the readers, and whether or not they're right to tell him to get out or not. And so that's a major driving force in the story. So he and one of the other POVs leave the town. Meanwhile, one of the other POVs, Sarah, stays in the town and learns magic from the old dwarf lady. And so we get bits in the town as the drama unfolds because it's set in the rural South. And now there's dwarves and there's girls learning magic. And so if you know anything about the rural South, even in an apocalypse situation, that can sort of grind some people's gears. It can cause some friction, right? While meanwhile, the soldier dude's off trying to figure out what's going on in the world and save other towns and rescue Atlanta from orcs and stuff.
Fun. So it's a kind of magic that you can learn. It's not like generational magic then.
Yes and no.
Oh, okay. We'll keep that under wraps for a while, maybe.
So it's one of the fun things about it. I have essential tremors and minor cerebral palsy, and so one of the concepts we played with magic and stuff in this world, disabilities like that are a result of magic being removed from our reality, and people with disabilities don't have the magic they would normally, and so that's why those develop. And so when magic returns in this world, people with disabilities start to gain magic and have those abilities. And so there are people without those that can learn magic. And what you experienced before the shattering can affect the type of magic you learn. So there are alternate ways, but there are specific methods. And usually it's people with a certain history that the book gets into a little bit that are able to learn to use and connect with magic.
Yeah, so like they have extrasensory
Mhm.
powers. Interesting. So I think you alluded to the fact that this may be the first in a series.
Yep, this is book 1 of 3 planned.
Okay. So tell me about where this goes from here. Maybe you can't give too much away about the ending of this one.
Yeah, so book 2 is currently, we just wrapped up with beta readers. We're getting ready to do edits to prepare to send it to our editor. And so book 2 picks up. We're exploring the world more. We're getting some different perspectives. One of my favorite things about book 2 is we pick up a POV that's an orc. So we introduced a new POV that's nothing like the other characters we've seen, because orcs are mostly the enemy, the driving opposing force in book 1. But book 2, we pick up from the POV of an orc who's part of a cult, and it's about her journey to try and like get out of this cult and become her own person, and learning what it means to be an individual and an orc and stuff. And so it's also getting more into the more classical big bad guy who's got some plans, who we've planted the seeds for in book 1. He's like behind why all this happened. And so we get more into like a quest, a plot to try and deal with him, prevent him from showing up later. And we get a little more high fantasy with it, whereas book 1's a lot more world building and more of a mix of modern stuff with high fantasy. Book 2 gets a lot more high fantasy elements to it because the world's now more established. We've had some time since the apocalypse.
Right. So are there some people that, so if there's this amorphous evil that wants them, or that maybe brought the magic to it, are there factions that want the magic to stay and factions that want the magic to leave again?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. There's plenty as time will continue, and we do a time jump of 6 months between the first and second book. People that were used to not having magic and were, on top of the world tend to think that magic is bad and would rather not have that anymore. And then there's individuals who are thriving now because of it, and of course would rather have that stay. And there's constant, there's friction between those groups.
Yeah, that sounds like that. I mean, and what happens when the magic, if the magic left, like all of a sudden, would it cause as much
I mean,
catastrophe
it's,
is
it's
happened
destroyed
when it
society
came,
already
right?
once. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. And do the people know what will happen if that happens, or is there
No.
that written in the history?
That's actually, so that ties into the main villain's goal. So the main villain in book 2, his entire goal is to remove magic from
Oh.
reality. And so that ties into why it was removed in the first place. And so there are people who say, well, if you remove magic, but you don't remove, like, some of us are so intricately connected to magic, it'll get rid of us or destroy us in a capacity. So there's people fighting for their lives against that eventuality. Whereas other people who are like, nah, we were fine without it before. We were doing pretty good.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, that there's so much to dig into there. That sounds like an amazing world and amazing plot structure that, or multiple plot structures that you've set up there. How do you write together? How does that work?
Yeah.
So it's evolved a lot over time. Like Mick said, it took 6 years on the first go, and a much tighter timeline on the second one, just because the first was taking what was essentially Mick's ideas and thoughts and getting them to a point where there's a workable story and world out of what he had envisioned. And once you're on the rails for a second one, the rules that you've made up now was a lot quicker for us to get through. And at the beginning, Mick was had basically asked me to come on and consult a little bit, edit a little bit. I was a English literature major in college, and I was a Army cadet in college. So I was like, well, does this make sense? Just kind of sounding board type situations. And as the story progressed, and we were releasing chapter by chapter on Patreon at the beginning to get some support and see what people thought, the more I dug my claws into Mick's writing process, and eventually, I was full-time editing it, and then by the end of the story, we're bouncing ideas off, and I'm writing some things, and it's sort of organically, I worm my way in, and now I've made myself indispensable, like all true villains.
All right.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Michael,
Now we
like, it was initially your idea or your baby?
Yeah, I came up with the idea in high school, actually. And then when I graduated college, I was like, I've got a little time before my fiance graduates. I'm going to take this time and I'm going to really try and get this book written in a year. Needless to say, it took a little longer than that, but the goal was to get it done, get things on paper, actually progress it. And so, yeah, I've dragged Dave, not kicking and screaming, very willingly into the process, just because I was like, well, I need some feedback. I trust Dave. He's gonna tell me if it's awful, and he's not gonna sugarcoat it for me. But I also wanted his perspective as a military dude, because there's a heavy military presence. And I was like, I don't want anyone with military experience to read this and go, that's not how that works, and it really bothered them. So it was really important to me that element of the story was very grounded and realistic, and the actions and stuff made sense. And so Dave got brought in, and he was just such an instrumental part of the editing process that he just slowly, I was like, hey, so book 2, you're getting credit as a co-author, not just an editor. And as he's helped develop characters, there's characters that he's written almost entirely himself. We've had overlap where we both written a chapter and brought it to each other and then compared notes and just picked the things we like best out of it, because we've been working together on this so long, and there's so much back and forth that he's picked up my style and incorporated it, and I've picked up elements of his style that have just become our writing style in the process.
having beta readers try to figure out which one of us wrote which section has been very, very funny to me.
They can't.
They can't do it.
Oh, that's good. I mean,
none of them can tell the difference.
Yeah, that's seamless writing, right?
Oh yeah.
That's very cool. So do you keep like spreadsheets or files of or outlines of everything that's happened and every character so you can reference them?
Yeah, we've got just several very long running Google Docs, because it's the easiest way to share and make comments. And we've got some like highlighting strategies. So blue means it's something that's been added new to the document. So if something's highlighted in blue, Dave knows, oh, I may not have read this, and then he'll go and unhighlight it. Or if something's highlighted in red, the other person's like, I don't like this, get rid of it. Or if something's highlighted in green, it's like, oh, this is good, keep this. And so we have just extensive documents of outlines for the books, and then we've got character lists with all the details and stuff like that.
Very fun. Yeah, I didn't think I would like writing with someone else, but I met an illustrator who I really liked their work, and we were going to do something together, and I was thinking, oh, we'll do a coloring sheet or something. And he was like, let's write a book together. And I was like, what? But I really enjoyed the process because like he came up with the main character's name, and I did some research and I built a story around that character. And he didn't do tons of input like when I was writing the story, but definitely when I got stuck, like there was this one part I wasn't sure about, and so I just sent it to him. I was like, what do you think? And I didn't even tell him which part it was. And he came back and he was like, this part is not right. This character wouldn't do that. Right. So it was really good to be able to like bounce ideas. Well, what would this character do? So I really enjoyed that experience. I was scared of giving up my control in the beginning, but it was, I realized that it was like, it made the story better, definitely.
Right.
We had many a late night or early morning conversation, depending on what part of the world I was in at any given time, that were covering the same things that you just talked about. Like, well, we had this plan for this character, but we just wrote 4 chapters of them, and like, I don't know if they would do that anymore. And so it's the whole, come to a consensus on like, actually, probably would be more like this. And there's been, I can count, I'm half a dozen times for the second book, which is finished, that oh man, like this is what we thought was going to happen, but like no longer makes sense. So let's adjust this and make it so it isn't contrived anymore, because now it feels like we forced it.
Right. So do you have like when you started book 2, did you have a whole outline of like chapter by chapter what you thought was going to happen, or is it more organic? You like think up scenes as you go?
We knew where we wanted to end book 2. And so we actually got together and we sat down at the beginning of the planning phase. We're like, all right, we're going to chat. We're going to plot out the first 10 chapters, and then we're going to look at those and see how that plot, and see if that plot has varied as we write it. And then we'll plot out the next 10 and let the chapters, we've got a general idea of where we're going. We want to let the events that unfold play into how things unfold. So there's some discovery writing, but we usually have a bit of an outline. And that outline can vary from like, okay, in this chapter, it's just this POV. That's all we know. To, hey, this character's going to do this, this, and this. So it just varies. And there is definitely elements of the story where we didn't plan it. And it got to a point where it's like this character would do this thing. And, we had to plan an entire act because a character was like, you know what, it's the apocalypse. There's no really who's going to stop me from doing this thing, and just decided to go do the thing. And it completely threw everything off the rails, but in a great way that really enhances the story, and we think is very rewarding for the reader.
Having that room to operate is great, because we have plenty of characters who were very minor or fulfilled a different role, who have they've written themselves into being more important. And so it went in ways that were, at the beginning of the first book, if you would have told me at the end of the second one, this character had 5 chapters, I'd be like, how is that possible? And then organic was nice. So.
Right. So what is this? So if it's 230,000 words, what is the time frame of the first book? Like how long passes between the beginning and the end?
It covers about 3 months.
Okay.
But it's also 3 POVs.
Okay.
So there's a lot of overlap.
And are they first person POVs, or is it third person?
It's third person.
Third person. Okay.
Yep.
So, and then there's a 6-month break, and then is book 2 going to be about the same amount of time then?
Ooh, that's a good question. How long does book 2 take place?
I'd say similar.
Yeah.
I think looking at it now, it's about similar. Yeah.
Maybe a little shorter.
It's coming in a little less word count right now, although based on beta reader feedback, it seems like there's going to be some additions, which makes me feel better that people wanted to see more of things instead of wanting to axe entire arcs. Right?
Yeah. That would not be a good situation.
And that's been a really fun thing with how big this book is and being indie published, because it's such a long book. There is a consistent and regular feedback from people who are glad it's as long as it is. And so many of our reviews are like, I actually kind of wish it was longer. So it's really, really gratifying having been shot down by traditional publishers, because we're first time indie authors who are co-authors who have a giant book, right? And they're like, no way we're touching that with a 10-foot pole, because that's just too many factors that are such a risk as publishers. To have every other reader who leaves a review and reads it be like, wow, it didn't feel that long because the pacing's so good, but also I want more. It could have been longer and that would have been okay. So it's very gratifying.
Yeah, that is really good. Yeah, I think any normal publisher would have taken that and made 3 books out of it, right?
Sure. Yeah, and
Makes
that's something we discussed. We talked about splitting it up into 1 or 2, and what we ended up the conversation ended up being, if we do split it up, we're going to end up with 2 or 3 books that are all the same length because we're going to want to properly explore the things that we're dividing it up to
Hydra.
and spend more time in those areas to really flesh it out. And so it's like we're going to keep it to 1 for the first one.
And if
Well,
you'd like
and
to listen,
Yeah.
you
And
try
if
to
you
listen
broke
to
up,
it with an
then-
audiobook, and it's 24 hours long. So
Yeah. Yeah, and if you broke it up, you'd have to have the story arc work right.
yes.
To
Yeah.
have, I mean, I did for one of my series, the first book, I did kind of a cliffhanger, and
Mhm.
people were like, no, you know. So I went back and wrote like an extra chapter on the end that like put it back together a little bit more because a lot of my people didn't like the cliffhanger part.
Oh.
So.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Well, I will say that you mentioned some of the things that you've written. I heard you're a big fairy fan. Is that true?
I am a big fairy fan. Do you have fairies?
We have pixies.
You have pixies. Those are very much like fairies.
Yeah, not friendly. Spoiler alert.
Oh.
Pixies show up in book 2. Yeah, there's a lot of fantastical elements to it, and we use the term fae to describe basically all magical beings. So
Oh, okay.
the premise is essentially, one of the early premises of the book was any magical creature that we know of in pop culture or historical mythology exists because they used to exist, and those are our waning memories of them from a time we've forgotten. So there's a possibility of any type of magical creature showing up in this series. There's no hard and firm. Well, there's no those.
Okay.
I took a lot of inspiration from cryptids too, on the similar
Mhm.
vein. Like, there's a reason why humans have a memory of, collective memory of a Sasquatch type being. Well, if maybe there was one, and we, you know what I mean, we're scared of it from back in the day. Kind of genetic memory.
So are there other paranormal beings too, like vampires and werewolves and all those type of things?
Anything.
Anything? Wow.
Anything. There is a vampire
Definitely
child at
vampires.
the end of book 1.
Yeah.
It's a major threat they have to deal with, and we kind of changed the origins. So it is essentially an elf child that was taken by some orcs that they did some blood magic experiments on, and it essentially became a vampire.
Okay,
So
like my vampires, they're much like humans in the fact that they do breed. My vampires in my series. So, but this one was a child made into a vampire then.
Yeah, sort
Yeah.
of like a genetic experiment, essentially.
That's not good.
Creepy. Very creepy.
no, it's not.
Yeah, in my finale, well, I shouldn't give too much away. Maybe I could give it away and then my readers would think it was a bonus. Yeah, so in 2 of my books, one of my books, I have goblins and trolls and ogres that are the bad guys that come and try to take over the Fae realm. And then in my finale that's coming out in July, I have many more fantastical creatures. So I have done tons and tons of research about fantasy creatures, and it sounds like you may have too.
For sure. Oh yeah. Yeah. Lots of that.
Super fun. Well, tell me, so Michael, did you have a background in literature or writing, or this just came to your brain and you wanted to write it, so you did?
I've been reading since I could walk, basically. I was homeschooled. I had 4 younger brothers. There wasn't much else to do besides wrestle my siblings and read growing up. So I did not have a writing background. I went to school for criminal justice. So I don't have any professional writing experience. I wrote short stories and stuff in high school, and my English teachers always encouraged me to try and pursue that. I've just had a love of literature from a very young age. And then my wife is actually an English teacher with an English degree. So she's made plenty of contributions to the story. And it's a really fun element of our dynamic, the 3 of us, is I'm not an English major. Dave and my wife are both English majors. So I'm the one who originally started writing the book, but they have their influences on it. And so it's always fun when they get their English major hands on something and like, ooh, you did this and this and this, and there's layers here and there's foreshadowing here and all the fun technical English jargon, major jargon. and it feeds into the story and it helps improve the story. And they see things that I'm going for that I might not know the technical name for, since it's been years since I studied it, but they're like, ooh, that's that.
Yeah, I hated English literature class so much that I don't remember any of those terms. So I went back and took tons of classes on, plot and characters and all of those things, just because I love writing so much.
I was lucky to have very good professors in college that made it. Because I was thinking about switching at the beginning of school, and because I had kind of a great history teacher and a bad English professor, and I luckily had got scooped up by some very intelligent and very caring, proficient individuals, and I stayed the course and ended up working out. So
that's awesome. Yeah,
I see why. I see what you're saying, though.
Yeah, your teachers can make all the difference, right? That's fun. Well, tell everyone where we can find your books, or your book, I guess I should say.
Yeah, it's available drafted digital. It's available on Amazon in ebook form. It's available anywhere. It's literally everywhere. It's in paperback, it's hardback version, it's ebook version. I've got signed copies on Etsy. If you want a signed copy, you can just look up Paragon Exordium or Mikel Melwasul on Etsy and you can get a signed copy. It also has an audiobook on Audible that is just knock your socks off good. Our narrator did an incredible job. One of the first things he did after he auditioned, he's like, hey, you got a basilisk. I want to kind of experiment with the basilisk voice. Is it okay with you if I kind of like mess around with it? And I was like, yeah. And the first clip he sent me, I was like, oh, we're in for a good time. Because he does some fun elements in that storytelling. And it's like a 24-hour audiobook. But our audiobook makes up like half of our movement. It's very popular amongst our readers. And it's his narration's so good. It made me fall back in love with the story, because when you work on something for a long time, you can sort of fall out of love with it to a little bit. You can just become so hypercritical of the writing style and the story and stuff. But like listening to him perform it, I was like, I'm back in. Let's go. It's very different, but it's great.
Awesome. Yeah, I love audiobooks, and I agree. I have my books produced in the audiobook too, and just hearing them and hearing the voice is just like, it's magical when you hear that. So that's neat. Yeah, I will look you up. So, and what is your website if people want to find you and follow you?
I'm Michael. We don't actually have a website yet. We're working on that.
We're working on it.
We're working on it. But if you just look up Mikel Melwasul, I am on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Threads. I'm on all the major places. I'm most active on Instagram and TikTok, just Mikel Melwasul. Super easy to find me. Dave is not active anywhere. You'll just have to catch him via osmosis of me dragging him onto podcasts and things.
Due to my former profession, having a social media presence was unwise. So
I get that. Yeah. Well, thank you for being here, and I hope you'll come back when you publish the next book. Does that have a title yet?
Yes, Paragon Attrition, and that should be releasing at the end of the year. And then we are sending Paragon Apocrypha to our editor at the end of the month, which is a collection of short stories in the world of the Galvorn saga.
Fun.
So short story collection like in a few months, and then end of the year, Paragon Attrition.
Great, super fun. Well, thank you so much for being here, Mikel Melwasul and David Tullius. Did I get that right?
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you, and we will have you back.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Finding the Magic podcast. I'm your host, author and podcaster Tricia Copeland, and I love getting behind the scenes. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe and stop in each week to discover new authors and books. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep finding the magic.